We all want to feel good. Everyone. I don't think I know of any person that doesn't want to feel good, that doesn't want to find a sense of completion, of wholeness. All addictions arise from a lack of wholeness. So in this video, I'm going to break down, we're going to continue to explore the ancient Sanskrit text, Atma Bodha, which is designed to destroy ignorance about who we are. According to the great sages of India, the world's oldest and most sophisticated spiritual wisdom, that feeling of completeness that we are seeking in the world is misguided. That feeling of wholeness that we are seeking can only be found in the One, in alignment with the One, and an awakening to our true nature, which is a part of the One. I had my initial spiritual awakening in 2020. I was raised Christian. And even growing up as a child, I vaguely remember past lives. And the story I was told didn't really add up. It seemed more like fear-based control systems. In fact, the people proclaiming to be followers of Christ, a lot of them were very un-Christ-like. And so when I had my awakening, it reactivated this knowledge that we are eternal, that we are here to participate in one of the greatest historic moments in the history of the human race, in the history of this planet, which has been a lie, that we actually go back, according to Vedic traditions, which are much older, we go back tens of thousands of years, if not more, hundreds of thousands, and that we're all on an evolutionary journey. Every soul is a fractal, is a small aspect of the One that has no independent existence from the One. So when I had my spiritual awakening, one of the first things I did was I sought what is enlightenment, and that supreme ruler, that cosmic ordainer, that in which everything lives and moves and has its being, led me to the great traditions of India. And then as I'm sifting through these, I was led to the crown jewel of all philosophical systems, of all knowledge, and that is Vedanta. That Vedanta, the end of knowledge, that upon which knowing all things are good is known. Know thyself. So this treatise, Atma Bodha, is a 68-verse Sanskrit text, PhD level mysticism, written by Adi Shankara, one of the greatest sages of India, who was part of a long lineage going all the way back to the Upanishads, going back way thousands of years before the Christian era. And he put together this system of destroying ignorance that veils our true nature, that veils our oneness with the cosmic supreme being source. A lot of people call it God. I don't think God's a very accurate term. And this what we're going to go over today is a few more verses. We started in the first part of this series. I broke it down. Basically, Shankara unfolds this science of self-knowledge that is Atma Bodha. Our Atma is the self of all. In Vedic traditions, it was clearly understood there's the small s, the ego, the individual conscious being, and then there's the large s, the self of all, that transpersonal being that penetrates every atom in the universe, that is non-separate from us. We do not experience it as so because of ignorance, because of the human condition, but he begins to unfold the path, that there are basic qualifications or basic preliminary steps before we can even really understand this text or even cultivate the fruits that come with the application of self-knowledge. Vedanta is a means of self-knowledge that will remove your ignorance, but it requires rigorous practice. And he's basically saying that in those first four slokas, or those first four verses, he's saying that we have to have already purified ourselves. We have to prepare the mind for self-knowledge, purifying the mind, attaining peace of mind, equanimity, an even keel. Nirodha is the term they use in the Sanskrit scriptures. As the mind becomes inclined towards purity, we have renounced worldly desires, and this has to be our primary focus: is attaining self-knowledge. The path is very narrow, And so there's tons of worldly pursuits, but the wise realize that all of these worldly pursuits for fulfillment are misguided attempts at self-realization, because self-realization and enlightenment is the aim of human life, and it is the desire that ends all other desires, is to know thyself. This is when the soul has had enough experience of the highs and lows of cyclical existence, when samsara has disillusioned us, that we are ready to find out the truth of who we are. Shankara makes it pretty clear that action can't destroy ignorance. Now, while I do expound disciplines for evolution, like activating dormant energies, stem cell production, various forms of yoga, none of that hurts. But here Shankara is saying that action isn't going to destroy ignorance. Why? Because you're already that. You have always been a part of that. It could be no other way. You could not exist without the one. Nothing can exist without source. So he is saying that action can't destroy ignorance, but knowledge will dispel ignorance as light dispels deep darkness. Hence the term enlightenment. Vedanta tends to shy away from this term, and they put it as, I've heard it put as self-realization, self-actualization, illumination. You know, you have great sages of the tradition, Ramana Maharishi. You have going back tens of thousands of years. But I would like to just replace those terms with evolved. This is the next stage of human evolution, is awakening to oneness, awakening out of the dream of duality and understanding higher spiritual realities that are the cause of this physical universe. And then he says in the 4th verse that knowledge does verily destroy ignorance. The soul only appears to be finite because of ignorance, and when ignorance is dispelled, our true nature shines forth like the clouds that pass away, like the sun when the clouds pass away. And he's saying also, it said in another translation, that the self that does not admit of any multiplicity truly reveals itself by itself. It is ultimately you, the inner guru, in alignment with the cosmic principle that this whole universe is governed by. We live in a universe of perfect mathematical balance. Other types of yoga, they do expound total devotion, surrender to Ishvara, which I practice to open the heart. You're really not going to get very far in evolution if the heart center isn't fully activated and you are existing in loving relationship to those around us. What a beautiful time to be alive. So we'll continue in part 2 now on the 5th verse, in which Shankara says, constant practice of knowledge purifies the self. The Jiva Atman purifies the individual conscious being, which is stained by ignorance and then disappears itself as the powder of the Kataka nut settles down after it has cleansed the muddy water. Us, the ego, the I thought, the feeling of being a separate entity, that impurity of mind, that is the source of bondage, is the I notion. And what he's saying is that understanding this science that we will continue to unfold, understanding what self-knowledge is, that I am consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And I'll add here, modern science, the Nobel Prize in 2022 went to a physicist proving non-locality. I can include that in the description, but if you look it up, basically science is making this huge, massive turn towards consciousness being fundamental, conscious agents. Look up Donald Hoffman. They've known this for 100 years through entanglement, through double slit experiments, that basically everything that we consider to be real actually is just subatomic particles emanating in and out of a field. If you examine everything close enough, everything's made of atoms. Atoms are energy, and the atoms exist in a state of potentials until they're observed. But basically, the field, the quantum field, is the actual underlying governing reality. The great sages of India knew this thousands of years ago. They said, they understood that everything in the universe, if you look at, they give the example of looking at threads. If you look closely, you see cotton, right? But if you look even more closely, you see fibers. And you break it down even more, you see atoms. And what they're saying is that those atoms are phasing in and out of real. They're in a state of constant change. The physical universe is in a constant state of change. But the underlying reality, the quantum field, is real, is permanent, and is unchanging. That field is consciousness, awareness. It is that in which everything lives and moves and has its being. It is that which we have the capacity to be self-aware. So it is unknowable. Awareness, existence, consciousness is unknowable. It projects the universe out of itself, right? And then it is also transcendent and immanent. Okay, so everything in the universe is a part of the one. It just doesn't realize it. Well, they do in other ascended realms on other planets. And if you're a starseed, continue to, or you identify as someone who has memory of past lives in another world and know that you're a part of this awakening, you're on the right channel, because I want to be careful with how I unfold this, but also do it in a way that can help. Is that this text, man, this is the crown jewel of Vedanta. And he goes on further in verse 6 to say, the world, which is full of attachments and aversion, is like a dream. It appears to be real as long as it continues, but appears to be unreal when one is awake, when true wisdom dawns, when self-knowledge clicks and you begin to understand that everything is one. It's no longer a fleeting idea. You know, you can take mushrooms and realize this, but then the mushroom's going to wear off and you're back down in duality, and now you've got a Vipassana for having taken a compound to experience this. The point and the aim of Vedanta is to realize this directly, to have it a constant reminder that it is a constant knowledge that I am awareness, to cultivate discrimination between the real and the unreal. And he's saying that when this knowledge dawns, you'll realize that this whole universe is a dream inside of you. You are consciousness. Isn't it crazy that anything exists? Think about that. How is there existence? You know, how is there a universe? Like, where did it come from? Where do we come from? It's all God. That's a poor term. Source is a better term. But now we'll go into verse 7. Verse 7. The world appears to be true so long as Brahman, the substratum, the basis of all this creation, is not realized, like the illusion of silver in the mother of pearl. So you have to forgive me, there are some very sophisticated Sanskrit terms, which I'm not going to be, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar. I'm very grateful to have been born in a time when these texts, this highly sophisticated science, was translated to English. But what I'll say is, there are two terms here. There is Satya and Mithya. Satya, Mithya is the physical universe. It appears to be, it has the appearance of being real. You know, and no one's denying what we're having a real three-dimensional experience. However, no one can also deny that it began and it ended. It is impermanent. You will die. What is born dies. What is unborn never dies. And that is Satya, truth. Truth, the underlying reality, God, consciousness, is what is real, meaning it is eternal. And that's why we, as the individual, if we take a step back, right, in awareness and abide in awareness, we can see that we're not actually the individual, that there is actually only one of us here that is the seer, the ground of all being. And by purifying ourselves and cultivating self-knowledge, this can become a waking part of our experience. And that's what allows us to abide in a state of joy, of wonder and awe. Remember as kids how amazing and big the world was, right? And full of adventure, and we had energy. And then we were indoctrinated by the belief systems of the world, and we inherited trauma, and we're basically on a planet where negative elites, entities are trying to enslave the masses and poison us and veil our true nature to keep us deeper and deeper in spiritual amnesia. But there's no stopping what's coming. Awakening is here. What an exciting time to be alive. He uses the term Brahman, right? Now Brahman is a word for consciousness, meaning awareness. It is the ever-present witness of the mind. It is what allows us to observe physical reality. It is what allows us to observe our thoughts. If you read there's a lot of really great spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, for instance, that say when we become aware of our thoughts, we have activated a higher state of being. And that's what awakening is. It's a strong sense of presence that comes, a strong sense of stillness that comes from cultivating self-knowledge, that I am awareness. It is taking a stand in awareness and realizing that you're not the individual, that you are the underlying reality, and everything is this underlying reality, and this is truth, Satya. In verse 8, like bubbles in the water, the worlds rise, exist, and dissolve in the Supreme Self, which is the material cause and the prop of everything. So what he's saying is the entire physical universe there again is pervaded by the quantum field, by consciousness, by awareness, by God, source, energy, and everything emerges from it, sports for a while, acts out its role, plays out its karma, and then dissolves back into it. It was never apart from it. You never left spirit. We're still in spirit. If you can't see it, it's because your eyes have been veiled by ignorance. But lo and behold, here comes Vedanta to clean the mirror and to awaken you into the truth of who you are. Tat Tavam Asi, that thou art, that you in the Supreme are one. You're not God in quantity. Of course, there's the transcendent self that is unafflicted by this physical universe, but there is the transpersonal self. God is also omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, so he couldn't be those things unless everything was a part of the one, which is Brahman, which is consciousness, which is the transpersonal self that 90% of the population here on earth is incapable of seeing, but there's a large awakening cycle going on, and what an exciting time to be alive. I know I've said that before, but I do want to jump into this 9th verse because this is some boof right here. Verse 9. All the manifested world of things and beings are projected by imagination upon the substratum, which is the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu, whose nature is existence intelligence. Now this isn't trippy. You're not fully understanding this. What they're saying is this is 0 point non-locality, that the pattern of the whole is encoded in every part. It means that the individual conscious being is the universe. It projects this physical reality out of itself. Now everything is existing entanglement. Everyone is doing it. There is one I that is projecting Maya, illusion, so that it can walk through this experience of being a separate entity. Because if everything's God and God is one, there could be no play, there could be no cosmic drama. That's why there's dark and light polarity which emerge from it. But what he's saying in this verse is, you've always been it, you're it, you've always been it. The universe that you experience is a projection. You are eternally free from the projection when you understand who you are and you give up the ego, you surrender the ego, you dissolve the personal I into the impersonal I, the big I, the universe that sees all. That's what he's saying. And so that's a trippy one. That shows you that nothing in this universe is by coincidence. Everything is done by design. You're creating your own reality, whether you believe it or not. Your beliefs create your reality, so it would be smart, it would actually be wise to realize that all is one. Act as if all is one because of the mathematical precision of the universe and karma and dharma, that if we live out of alignment with our soul's purpose, or if we cause harm, or if we don't see this oneness, even if we mean well, we can create bad karma, we can live out of alignment with dharma, and we will suffer the fruits of that. Because, and that's another thing, beautiful thing, is that you will know awakened souls by their fruit. Even at higher levels of consciousness, we are not impervious to the influences of good and evil. We try to walk the middle path, but most of us understand that you're not getting into unity consciousness without a fully thriving, awakened heart that abides in unconditional love, knowing that everyone is an aspect of each other. And man, so this is part 2 of the series. We've gotten through 9 verses on the road to awakening. Remember what I said in the beginning. We all want to feel good. Feeling good and living in harmony with the truth of who we are synonymous. I prescribe a lot of very advanced practices for generating stem cell production, for slowing the aging process, for activating the Kundalini to raise it to the Sushumna and to activate into openness, because this is the seat and this is how we take back our power from the global, and I'm not afraid of global elites. They're an entirely different frequency domain, but we are here to help awaken humanity. The planet is being bombarded with cosmic energy, with cosmic, the sun, the Schumann resonance. All this is science. Points to the fact we are headed towards a golden age of human existence. There will be dark timelines, but there are also highly awakened timelines. I'll share with you before we close here one thing that I experienced in meditation and through near-death experiences, and why I was allowed to live when things should have killed me. Literally like 50 times I should have died from drug overdoses and vehicle accidents. Now I'm multiple years in sobriety, but when I died and went to the other side, what I saw was this planet being transformed. I want you to imagine a comet hitting this planet and it kicking up a cloud of dust. Now that comet was Yeshua, the Christ, one perfected being, radically altered the history of this planet in a positive way. Even though people have used the religion for negative means, this one perfected being was huge impact on the world. Now imagine dozens and dozens of Christ beings hitting the planet in the cloud it kicks up. This planet will not be the same. And the lies will be exposed, the corruption will be exposed, and God is coming back as us, awakening through us, because he never left. Revelation means he's revealing that he's been present all along, and the people that thought they were getting away with doing dirt and enslaving people and causing harm and using black magic on the masses will suffer grave karmic consequences that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, but it's all natural law. We live in a universe of perfect mathematical balance. Everything is accounted for. Everything we do in private isn't in private because we aren't separate. But what I'll say is, in the next video, part 3, we're gonna continue this roadmap to cultivating self-knowledge. And if anybody's watching this and would like to know anything particular, my practices include breath work, Kundalini yoga, meditation, mantra, cold exposure, fasting, celibacy. I use an inversion table to hang upside down. It's all about raising this energy, man. And it's a very narrow path, okay? But we're going to unfold it here. And I want you all to know you are loved. I love you. God is good. And God alone is real. And I hope you followed me to the end here.